Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today so I can say welcome to the Advancement Center and welcome to the world of magic and miracles, where all possibilities are available and come in so many different ways that surprise and delight us. We've all had moments of sheer delight, like waking to the first silent snowfall while you were sleeping, and you wake up to a winter wonderland. Of course, that's back east, and we're here in California. But I still remember the joy of waking and finding a magic fairyland. Yeah. And then after a terrible, noisy windstorm and rain, to discover a rainbow. What a joy. How thrilling and how unexpected. Yeah. The reason I can say all these things is because I know that we all share an origin. And that means we have all brought gifts with us when we came to this physical world. And I'm here to remind you often of your gifts and how to present them. And as some of you know, I always write in my journal, and I write to a special and dear friend who happens to be Robert's twin brother in another realm. So here we go. At 7:26 this morning. Dearest Simeon, my broadcast is in 4.5 hours, and I plan to share my experiences of my movement telling like my own handwriting, my own movement. Oh, and recognizing our likenesses rather than differences. Is this a good idea? Question mark. And he answered immediately, and it always is such a joy. And he said, Dearest Barbara, you were led at all times as an emissary of your Creator in the most unlikely interactions that you believe, oh my goodness, were so at odds from the typical. You displayed the power of love and viewed memory of your own origin. We love and support you. In other words, what he's talking about is, I guess I was asking for permission to just tell my words, share my memories, and there are so many because it all depicts how I see this life, this world, and how I can operate in it. So that was very wonderful to hear him say that. Yeah. And I also know that we all share a special knowing. We all have our own memories. No one can take them away. They can cover them over with a lot of new news stories, but your memories are your memories. And so I was just considering, and I discovered a writing that was said to Robert, and it is so applicable to each and every one of us. And it's called A Special Knowing. And here it is, with all my love. It's called A Special Knowing. And this was written on May 16th, 2016. And I found it because I care so much about you, and that you should be able to know all there is supporting you. Remember our promise, and you will remember a life that is beyond belief. Every person has a special knowing that holds the full picture of everything, that is in line with such a special existence. But when you dare to remember what has been promised, you will see that special world right at your fingertips, ready for you to accept at your reality, as your reality. This is the promise of the masters of the universe who have been set aside to attend to the needs of humanity and to communicate the news of the new world to all who are ready to enter. And if you've been listening to our wonderful Advancement Center lectures, that new world is here for us to enjoy and just celebrate. And here it is. For many centuries, this promise has been delivered in many forms to people throughout the world and beyond. And it has been repeated in the minds of men through many different teachings. The actual picture belongs to each person and is not dependent on delivery through any second or third party. What you can see if you dare to remember is totally yours. And it is as true as your desire to make it. There is no proof except in the living of it, of its perfection. by each individual and the recognition that it is completely different for each individual. As we all step forward, this memory will become the source of our drive into the future, and all our actions will have a component of this drive that will eventually bring such a reality to everyone. Relax and celebrate as you bring your picture closer, and never hesitate to step into the reality to test its existence. It will blow you away with its power and majesty. I love this. Bring yourself back past the physical and into the unbelievably brilliant world of your Creator. This is the action required as you find your way through the maze of steps that are involved with the integration of magic and miracles into your daily life. Everything works perfectly in the brilliance of your Creator, and the physical world simply plays follow the leader. When you elect to be with your Creator, there is nothing more powerful than the continual flow of energy from your origin and this continued generation of sparkles that fill your world. The excitement of all that comes your way is more valuable than you can ever imagine, and the resulting stream of gifts that enter your world can only be from the brilliant and endless world of your Creator. This is a time for continuous conscious connection to your origin and to the physical world all at the same time. That is so valuable, because the most precious aspect of being is what we remember. We recharge every time we remember. And we're here to tell you that you have brought gifts with you from your origin, and you must remember them and use them. And that's what I'm about to share with you, how I have used what I have brought with me. At the time, I didn't understand it. But now, having met Robert and being an integral part of this advancement center, that's what we're made of. So, memories are amazing. They don't go away. They don't alter. They remain. And you can visit them whenever you want. So that's what I'm going to do with you today. I'm going to take you on my memory trip. Now, I've told you a little bit about my life. And I know that I've mentioned the stress reduction learning. That was my first job. In fact, I was still in school finishing my bachelor's. And I told you about this wonderful man, Mark Stebbins, who pleaded with the powers that be at Creedmoor to give him some space. That's all he wanted, some space to create the stress reducing learning, stress reduction learning, SRL. That's it. He said, this is for all the forgotten people, for the people they don't even chart anymore. They're just forgotten. And they came trudging over with their, I don't know what they're called, monitor, I guess, every morning to the program where they were greeted with a smile and a recognition and being called by their name and having a little snack. Food is always good. And that's when Mark welcomed me because he thought I would fit in. And I've told you how I got all those boys, the forgotten boys. I led them through meditation where they all stretched out on the floor, closed their eyes. I played music. I spoke to them about the importance of their being and how their life is important and their breath is important. And they would all get up at the end of the session with a smile. Well, I was so thrilled to have this effect on these people, on these young boys, that I invited all my professors at Queens College to come and observe and see the miracle and the magic that was happening. They all declined. They weren't going to go and expose themselves to that. So I made a video of the activities of what we were doing and the smiles and learning how to sway to the music and happiness. And I invited those professors to my home where I served them coffee and refreshment, and I showed the video. And that's as close as they came. So I knew what I was up against and what Mark has been up against for years. And I went back with more verve and energy than before. That just is the tip of the iceberg of what my life was about to bring. Challenge after challenge, and then more. Now, along with working with the boys, and I know I've mentioned Michael before, that was so special. Where I actually took them out to play on the grass. Yeah. But then I had 2 private patients that I worked with solo, with no instruction, no direction, and I just went with my heart. Now, first one, I'm going to share a memory with you. It's as though it happened yesterday, and her name was Roberta. She was dressed impeccably, clean everything, blouse, skirt. And she came walking into my little office there. And I got to know Roberta. And we did all kinds of things together. We drew together. Now, she was a woman in her 20s. Yeah. And you say, why on earth was she in Creedmoor? Well, she had had it with a very forceful mother. That's all I'll say is forceful. And one day, Roberta had had it. So she slapped her mother across the face. And the next day, she was in Creedmoor, a psychiatric center. No explanation. That was it. Over, done. So I knew there was a lot seething inside this young woman with the expensive clothes. And I remember one day I was free. I had no guidance. No one was marking me or grading what I was doing. I was totally free to do whatever I felt. And the only thing I consulted was my heart. And one day, I remember sitting here in front of a typewriter, and she had typing skills. And she would put a sailor to shame with what she spewed out. And all of that had been stuck in her. She was so mad. Ooh, she just, she had no outlet. She had no one hearing her. And I didn't find fault. I didn't restrain her. She could just say whatever she damn well wanted to. And it almost shook her. And then I taught her how to meditate, like I had taught the boys, and how to breathe. And pretty soon, she began to trust me. And she came every morning, eagerly looking for our next activity. And that was my first real patient. And there was a lot of woman under that exterior. And pretty soon, I don't remember really how long we had been together. And I said, the only thing that's missing from Roberta's life is normalcy. She doesn't have a normal day. She has a few hours with me where she feels free, and then she goes back to the ward. What kind of life is that? And one day, I just no excuses. I put her in my car. We went to the grocery store. We picked up some lunch makings, and I drove her to my house, which was not that far away, in Roslyn, Long Island. We made tuna fish sandwiches. We sat out in the backyard. She swung in my hammock. And then we sat and we had a lunch. And we talked. And you'd never in a million years guess that she was an inmate at a psychiatric center. I took her back. That was Roberta. And that was Barbara feeling free to love someone who has not been loved. And I didn't get in trouble. Mark thought it was cool. Now, the next person I'm going to tell you about is Joan. Joan, I see her now. She was in fastidiousness of everything. How she dressed, how she moved, how she spoke. It had to be perfect. And this was a young lady who was about to graduate summa cum laude from Vassar. And she had found the best way to get back at her mother, her overbearing mother. And she went off her rocker. Never graduated, and soon thereafter was taken to Creedmoor, a psychiatric center. Unbelievable. You have to believe me because I'm not going to tell you the truth, a lie. At any rate, I remember she wore white gloves. She spoke very proper. She was so restrained that I could feel it in my stomach. But the emphasis was being perfect. Well, that soon relaxed because as soon as she became aware of the fact that I was not judging her, but caring about her, she relaxed. In fact, I remember the day she didn't wear her white gloves. And we spoke. We spoke as two young women. And she couldn't get over the fact that she felt so relaxed and free. And we became friends. I felt like I was unearthing someone who had been buried. Now, both Roberta and Joan's parents were part of an auxiliary, and they were, I don't know this for sure, but they were probably very bossy, and they dictated what they wanted for their daughters. And they were very close to the director of Creedmoor, who was Dr. Werner. And I'm not quite sure how this came about, but Joan was invited to come to speak with Dr. Werner. And by this time, Joan really felt an affection towards me. And I remember walking across the campus to the administration building in Dr. Werner's fancy office. And she said, "What do we talk about?" I don't know. I said, "You know what? I trust you, Joan. You'll know. Just relax and know how much I care about you." So we went to the Dr. Werner's secretary, and we sat there waiting for Joan's appointment. And Dr. Werner stuck his head out of his office and invited Joan to join him. And I waited out next to the secretary. Few minutes went by. I'm laughing. I cannot believe this happened 50 years ago. Dr. Werner stuck his head out again and said, "Miss Whiting, please come in here." I said, "Okay." So I sat down next to Joan, gave her a big smile, and Dr. Werner said, "She won't talk to me." I said, "Joan, what's going on?" And she told me everything. She just let out everything. And pretty soon she and I were having a very lively conversation. And I included Dr. Werner, and I told him how wonderful Joan is doing and how she's relaxing. And I don't know, we were like two sorority sisters, and he was sitting there. What's going on here? At any rate, it was finally time to get up, and we both thanked Dr. Werner for his graciousness, and we left. The next day, there was a letter from Dr. Werner to Mark Stebbins, and it was for me to come to his office. And I said, "Oh, isn't that wonderful?" I'm going to go over there and he's going to commend me and say how much Joan has improved and relaxed and how proud he is of the work that's done in SRL. And I opened the envelope that the secretary gave me, and it was the proverbial pink slip. I had been fired. Talk about a craziness. I said, "What? I can't believe this." So I was fired. And that was my experience the first time at Creedmoor. So finally, going all over the place is when I found a position at Kingsborough Psychiatric Center that I've spoken about. And I told you about the drop-in center and the sensory awareness program. And then I got established there. And I was there for 3 years. But here comes my most precious memory that I'm going to share with you right now. It's hard to know where to start. At any rate, intake or new clients, no, not client, patients were taken in on the second floor, and I was sitting there. I'm not sure why, but I was there. And all of a sudden, I saw this man, and I just assumed that he's a doctor that I hadn't met before. And he was tall, well-built, brown slacks, soft white shirt, rolled up to the elbows. And I said, "Well, he must be a doctor that I haven't met yet." But the giveaway, he was wearing slippers. A patient? What's he doing here? He doesn't belong here. This is ridiculous. So, of course, I got to know him immediately and to let him know that no matter what goes on, I can be his friend. You've got to have a friend in a place like that. And he told me his story. And I'm going to tell it to you. His name is Isaac. And he was living in Europe. I'm not sure if it was Italy or Spain, but his very best friend was Khalil Gibran. And there was a whole group of them, beautiful, wonderful men of letters. And I said, how'd you get here? And he said, well, my funds ran out and I could not stay there. I had no money. So they said, well, go back to America. They take care of seniors there. They have these homes where you can just go in and they'll take care of you completely. So that's what he did. And I remember he said he went to this place on Sheepshead Bay. That's in Brooklyn. And he said he walked in and he's present. And he walked in and there were just people, listless, quiet, dozing in midday, not doing anything. And he said it was like a living morgue. And these are his words. And he said, I tried to stimulate them and to tell stories and to wake them up. And I even went in the kitchen and made some food and gave them snacks. I couldn't get them up and going. And he said, is this my life? Is this my future cut off? Is this where I'm going to be? So after considering this for quite some time, he collected all the sleeping pills they gave him at night. He was complaining he couldn't sleep, so every night they gave him sleeping pills. And he collected them, and he went into a closet with a glass of water, and he took all the sleeping pills. He said, I'm leaving this place. I don't belong here. This is not life. This is death. Well, I guess he was discovered. And of course, they took him to the psychiatric center because he must be nuts, right? Wrong. I had never met a more beautiful, articulate, and wonderful person. So I spent time, as much time as I could, and certainly invited him to my sensory awareness class, which he thought was infantile, and he didn't belong in kindergarten. And he dropped immediately and did 20 push-ups. He said, I don't need all this stuff. And it was life-changing for me to know that this is possible. And I did everything I could. And I'm not sure how much time elapsed, but first of all, he was a chef. And he said the food The food is like warmed up wet paper bags. It's not nutritious, not it's not tolerable. So I said, "Well, what would you like to eat?" I still remember. He said, "I need chicken for something." I don't know. He had all the reasons. I need chicken and I need an onion and something else. Well, I couldn't wait to get to the store on my way home that night. And I got those things and I brought them in the next day. And I was on my way up to give them to him. And they were all cooked and ready to eat. And all all I remember is Dr. V, and I said, Dr. Verman. And he said, "You're not going up there. I'll take that and I'll give it to him." Of course, he never did. And the next thing I heard, see, I was separated from Isaac because I was too effective with him and no one else could get close to him. So I was not allowed. And then, thank you for staying with me because this memory is so powerful. And then I heard that he had gone on a hunger strike and he was refusing to eat. And the last thing they wanted was a death on their hands from starvation. They'll be inspected or something or other. So when I heard that, alarm bells went off. And I went to visit him. And he said, "It's no use. I tried everything. I never did get that food you brought. I heard about it." I said, "This is not possible. I have to do something." So it was after 6 o'clock. The day staff had left. The evening staff was getting themselves set or something. And I ran down to my office on the second floor. And all I had in my desk was some chicken noodle soup that you poured hot water in, and some crackers, and maybe some cheese. I'm not sure. So I've never been so excited. So I ran up the steps and I said, "Isaac, come with me to the break room." And we boiled water. We made the soup. We had the cheese. We had the crackers. I remember to this day, we were sitting catty-cornered. He was on this side and I was on that side. And he said, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you home with your family?" And I said to him, "You are my family." And there was a bond. And I never tasted soup as good as that. And then soon thereafter, I was transferred back to Creedmoor, which is another story. But I stayed in touch, and I had a dear friend at the Isaac's Hospital who was an art instructor, and she knew the whole story, and she got him discharged, and he became a chef on a kibbutz in Israel. That's my story of Isaac. And the wild part of this, I think I mentioned it before, that was 50 years ago. So God knows what's happened. But thank you for letting me share these memories because they are as clear as if they had happened yesterday. So may your days be so filled with magic and miracles that 50 years hence will seem like yesterday. And just 3 days ago, I did a solo painting for you. Here it is. I hope you like it. I love doing reflections. Yeah. Memories are precious. I wrote here, we have all been blessed with a special knowing, and may it serve you always in your perfect life with perfect health and a truly magic future. Thank you for joining me. And I have here, thank you for joining me as I play my 88th key on my piano of life today. And tomorrow, I start on a new grand piano. So thanks for joining me. I am Barbara.